Please like and subscribe to the channel if you find this video interesting and useful. Give me more ideas you want me to make. Enjoy watching the video. Ethan Miller, at 29, was a walking, talking paradox wrapped in a meticulously ironed shirt. To the outside world, and particularly to his colleagues at Nexus Tech, a titan in the software industry, he was the epitome of disciplined efficiency. A brilliant software engineer, his code was as clean as his minimalist apartment, and his project deadlines were met with the precision of a Swiss timepiece. He approached life with the same rigorous logic he applied to debugging complex algorithms. Every action had a purpose, every decision was backed by data, and spontaneity was a variable best left undefined. His daily routine was a sacred ritual: black coffee at 6:30 a.m., a perfectly balanced protein shake, a commute timed to the second, and evenings dedicated to optimizing his personal productivity or delving into advanced coding languages. His work peers admired his unwavering focus, his managers lauded his impeccable record, and his distant relatives often wondered if he had ever genuinely smiled without a logical reason. Yet, beneath this facade of unyielding seriousness, lay a universe so vibrant, so utterly unexpected, that it would make a seasoned quantum physicist question the very fabric of reality. Ethan Miller, the man who could explain the intricacies of blockchain technology without blinking, harbored a secret passion that would send shivers down the spines of his professional acquaintances. He was a dedicated, almost obsessive, anime cosplayer and an avid collector of Japanese limited edition figurines. His secret lair, a soundproofed, temperature-controlled room in the furthest corner of his apartment, was a veritable shrine. Walls lined with meticulously organized manga series, shelves groaning under the weight of pristine scale figures still in their original packaging, and a wardrobe dedicated solely to an impressive collection of handcrafted cosplay outfits, ranging from stoic mecha pilots to flamboyant magical girls. The crown jewel was his Gojo Satoru ensemble, complete with perfectly styled silver wig and opaque blindfold, which he would don for clandestine photo shoots, carefully edited to remove any trace of his civilian identity. This hobby was his escape, his artistic outlet, the one place where logic gave way to pure, unadulterated joy. It was his national secret, guarded with the ferocity of a dragon protecting its hoard. The thought of anyone, especially his sister, discovering it sent a cold dread through him that even the most complex coding error couldn't inspire. Then there was Chloe Miller, his diametrically opposed younger sister, a force of nature at 23. Chloe wasn't just a vlogger, she was a phenomenon. Her YouTube channel, Chloe Unfiltered, boasted millions of subscribers who tuned in daily for her raw, energetic, and often hilariously chaotic takes on everything from viral makeup trends to socio-political commentaries. She was a whirlwind of vibrant energy, her words flowing as freely and unpredictably as a mountain stream. Her natural charisma and sharp wit made her a darling of brands and a relatable icon for her legion of fans. Parties were her natural habitat, social media her native tongue, and vlogging the truth was her personal mantra. Whether she was debunking an internet hoax with comedic timing or simply sharing her morning routine, which usually involved spilled coffee and an impromptu dance party, Chloe lived her life in front of a camera, embracing every messy, beautiful moment. Her apartment, a colorful explosion of bohemian decor and high-tech vlogging equipment, mirrored her personality, bold, artistic, and always ready for its close-up. She thrived on interaction, on connection, on the unfiltered chaos of human experience. The idea of living a life devoid of public engagement, a life as structured and predictable as Ethan's, was her ultimate nightmare. Despite their glaring differences, or perhaps because of them, Ethan and Chloe shared a bond that, while frequently strained, was undeniably strong. They were siblings, bound by shared childhood memories, the quiet grief of losing their father years ago, and an unspoken, enduring love. However, this bond was also a battleground. Their conversations often devolved into spirited, sometimes scathing, debates about each other's lifestyles. Ethan, Ever the pragmatist, viewed Chloe's impulsiveness as reckless, her public persona as a performative spectacle, and her aversion to structure as an inherent flaw. Chloe, he would sigh, pinching the bridge of his nose. Do you ever think before you act? Your brand is built on chaos, and one day, it will catch up to you. He worried constantly about her financial stability, her public image, and her general lack of a 5-year plan. He saw himself as the grounded, responsible elder sibling, constantly trying to steer her towards a path of sensible stability. Chloe, in turn, found Ethan's rigidity utterly baffling, almost offensive. She nicknamed him Robot Tan, a play on his hidden anime obsession, a secret she suspected but couldn't quite prove, much to her exasperation. Ethan, she'd retort, her voice laced with playful exasperation, you're not living, you're just existing. You're a human algorithm, completely devoid of spontaneous joy. Do you even remember what fun feels like? She saw his meticulously ordered life as a cage, a self-imposed prison of logic and discipline. She longed for him to loosen up, to embrace the messy, unpredictable beauty of life, to stop treating every decision like a critical system update. She often joked on her channel, anonymously of course, about her emotionally stunted programmer brother, who probably used spreadsheets to plan his bathroom breaks. Their arguments were legendary, often erupting over the most trivial things. A spilled cup of coffee in Ethan's pristine kitchen could ignite a 20-minute discourse on personal responsibility versus embracing life's imperfections. Chloe's latest vlog about the existential dread of corporate life would trigger a lecture from Ethan about the virtues of a stable career. They loved each other fiercely, but they understood each other about as well as a quantum physicist understood abstract art. Each was convinced their way was the only way, and that the other was desperately in need of an intervention. Little did they know, fate, in the form of an old, unassuming timepiece, was about to provide that intervention in the most unexpected, chaotic, and utterly hilarious way imaginable. Their two contrasting worlds, once so carefully maintained, were about to collide, shatter, and then spectacularly merge, forcing them to walk a mile, or perhaps a vlog, in each other's very different shoes. The stage was set for an epic, unforeseen exchange that would challenge every belief they held about themselves and each other. The night descended upon the city like a vengeful spirit, a symphony of flashing lightning and thunderous roars. Rain lashed against windows, transforming the urban landscape into a blurred canvas of gray and silver. Inside Ethan's meticulously organized apartment, the storm outside seemed to amplify the already simmering tension between the Miller siblings. They had started the evening with what Ethan optimistically called a constructive dialogue about Chloe's latest sponsorship deal, which involved endorsing a rather questionable brand of detox tea. Ethan, armed with meticulously researched data on its dubious claims and potential legal ramifications, had launched into a highly logical, fact-based assault on her choices. Chloe, predictably, had counterattacked with passionate arguments about creative freedom, artistic integrity, and the sacred bond with her audience, whom she believed would appreciate her authenticity more than a hefty paycheck. The dialogue had, as usual, swiftly devolved into a full-blown sibling squabble, escalating with each clap of thunder. Chloe, exasperated by Ethan's relentless pragmatism, had thrown her hands up, exclaiming, "You know what, Ethan? You just don't get it. You live in your little sterile bubble, disconnected from everything real. You have no idea what it's like to actually feel things, to connect with people." Ethan, his patience worn thin by what he perceived as Chloe's irrational emotionalism, had retorted with equal fervor, "And you, Chloe, live in a constant state of performative chaos. You confuse genuine connection with pandering to an audience, and you mistake impulsivity for creativity. Maybe if you spent 5 minutes thinking, you'd realize there's more to life than likes and subscribes." In the midst of this heated exchange, a particularly violent gust of wind rattled the old oak curio cabinet in the living room, a piece of furniture their late father had cherished. A small, unassuming wooden box, tucked away on a dusty shelf, was dislodged. It tumbled silently, hitting the plush carpet with a soft thud. Neither Ethan nor Chloe noticed it immediately, too engrossed in their verbal sparring. "You know what you need, Ethan?" Chloe huffed, hands on her hips, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You need a dose of reality. You need to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, preferably someone who actually lives." "And you, Chloe," Ethan countered, his voice sharp, "need a dose of responsibility. You need to experience what it's like to build something concrete, to manage real expectations, instead of just chasing fleeting trends." As if on cue, a sudden, blinding flash of lightning illuminated the room, followed almost instantly by a deafening crack of thunder that made the entire apartment tremble. Simultaneously, both Ethan and Chloe recoiled, their hands instinctively reaching out for something to steady themselves. Their eyes, still locked in an angry glare, simultaneously caught sight of the fallen wooden box. Driven by a strange, inexplicable instinct, or perhaps just a momentary ceasefire in their argument, they both reached for it at the exact same time. Their fingers brushed against a cold, smooth object within the box, an antique pocket watch. It wasn't just old, it felt ancient, imbued with a strange, almost ethereal energy. Its silver casing was intricately engraved with celestial symbols that seemed to pulse faintly in the dim light. As their hands, still tingling from the residual static electricity of the lightning strike, closed around the watch, a brilliant, almost blinding, emerald green light erupted from it. It wasn't the harsh white of lightning, but a soft, warm glow that enveloped them completely, pushing away the darkness of the stormy night. A low hum, like a distant, resonant chime, filled the air, reverberating deep within their bones. The sensation was intense, disorienting, and utterly overwhelming. For a split second, they felt a strange pull, as if their very essence was being stretched and twisted, a dizzying whirl of sensations that left them breathless. Then, as suddenly as it began, the light receded, the hum faded, and the room was plunged back into the flickering shadows cast by the ongoing storm. They stood there, momentarily stunned, their hands still hovering near the watch, which now lay innocently on the carpet, its glow extinguished. A shared, bewildered glance passed between them, an unspoken question hanging in the air. What just happened? But before either could voice it, the sheer exhaustion from the argument and the inexplicable event washed over them a sudden, heavy lethargy. They stumbled to their respective bedrooms, the strange incident already fading into the haze of a dream. The morning sun, usually a welcome sight, felt like a cruel spotlight. Chloe, or rather, Ethan in Chloe's body, was the first to wake, jolted not by his usual alarm, but by an insistent buzzing. He reached out a hand, expecting to feel the familiar coolness of his minimalist smart alarm, but instead, his fingers brushed against soft, flowing hair. His eyes snapped open, and he immediately knew something was terribly, terribly wrong. The bedroom was an explosion of color and fabrics, utterly alien to his monochromatic sensibilities. A chaotic stack of fashion magazines, a half-eaten bowl of cereal, and a ring light stood sentinel over a mountain of clothes on a chair. He sat up, pushing the mass of hair from his face, and his gaze fell upon his hands. They were slender, with perfectly manicured nails painted a shocking shade of glittery lavender. A gasp escaped his lips, a distinctly high-pitched, unfamiliar sound. He scrambled out of bed, his movements awkward and uncoordinated in the unfamiliar body, and stumbled towards the full-length mirror. Staring back at him was Chloe, his sister. Her vibrant pink pajamas, her messy bun, her unmistakable face. He touched his cheek, then her cheek in the mirror. He pinched himself hard. The pain was real, and it was undeniably her pain. "No, no, no," he muttered, his voice a disbelieving squeak. The buzzing intensified, and he realized it was Chloe's phone, vibrating incessantly on her bedside table. He tentatively picked it up. The screen glowed with an avalanche of notifications, Instagram DMs, YouTube comments, brand emails, and no less than 50 unread texts. "OMG, Chloe, where are you? Your fans are waiting. Did you forget about the morning livestream?" Panic, a sensation Ethan rarely experienced, clawed at his throat. Ethan Miller, the master of logical control, was trapped in his chaotic sister's body, facing a digital onslaught from millions of strangers. His meticulously ordered life had just been replaced by a hurricane of social media demands. Meanwhile, across the hall, Chloe, now in Ethan's body, was waking up to an equally rude awakening. Her eyes, used to the vibrant chaos of her own room, opened to a scene of almost clinical sterility. Everything was gray, white, or black. The air smelled faintly of lemon disinfectant. For a moment, she thought she was in a hospital. Then, she saw the pristine, uncreased suit laid out on a valet stand, the perfectly aligned collection of technical manuals on the bedside table, and the faint glow of a digital clock displaying 6 a.m. Her heart, which usually beat to the rhythm of a pop song, now felt like a metronome. She sat up, feeling a strange heaviness in her limbs, a stiffness she'd never experienced. She ran a hand through her hair, expecting her usual wild mane, but instead, her fingers encountered short, neatly combed strands. She bolted upright, sending the white duvet flying, and caught sight of herself in the minimalist wall mirror. It was Ethan. His severe haircut, his broad shoulders, his slightly furrowed brow that always seemed to be stuck in a state of intellectual contemplation. Chloe stared, utterly aghast. She flexed her biceps, his biceps, and let out a horrified shriek that was distinctly his deep, resonant voice. "No. Oh my God, no. This can't be happening." Then, her eyes fell upon the tailored suit. And the digital clock. 6 a.m. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," she chanted, a fresh wave of panic washing over her. She knew Ethan's schedule. 6 a.m. meant breakfast. 7 meant leaving for Nexus Tech. Nexus Tech. The very name sent shivers down her spine. She, Chloe Miller, who considered a strict schedule to be planning her next spontaneous adventure, was now trapped in the body of her robot-like brother, facing a 9-to-5 corporate existence. The thought of spreadsheets, coding, and endless meetings filled her with a dread far worse than any internet troll could inspire. The reality crashed down on both of them with the force of a tidal wave. Ethan, trapped in Chloe's body, stared at the endless stream of notifications demanding his attention, a live stream scheduled in an hour, and a calendar packed with influencer events. Chloe, in Ethan's body, stood frozen, contemplating a day filled with code, corporate jargon, and the terrifying prospect of pretending to be her emotionally stunted brother in a high-pressure tech environment. Their worlds had not just collided, they had catastrophically merged, leaving them stranded in each other's completely alien realities. The shared look of bewildered horror they exchanged later that morning, when they finally stumbled upon each other, was priceless. Two completely opposite souls, now inhabiting bodies that felt utterly wrong, facing lives that were utterly incompatible with everything they knew. The great switch had occurred, and the chaos was just beginning. The first few hours of their body swap were, to put it mildly, an unmitigated disaster, a comedic ballet of missteps and misunderstandings that would have been hilarious to an outside observer, but was sheer, soul-crushing agony for Ethan and Chloe. Ethan, now inhabiting Chloe's vibrant, expressive body, found himself paralyzed by the sheer volume of digital demands. Chloe's phone, a relentless harbinger of doom, vibrated with alarming regularity. A crucial notification flashed across the screen. Livestream in 15 minutes. Hashtag brand collab, hashtag morning vibes. Ethan's stomach lurched. He, a man whose public speaking was limited to highly technical presentations in controlled corporate environments, was now expected to perform live for millions of adoring fans. And it was for a major skincare brand, no less, one Chloe had gushed about in her sleep. He had absolutely no idea how to apply makeup, let alone emote for a camera. He fumbled through Chloe's vast collection of cosmetics, staring at palettes and brushes as if they were alien artifacts. He tried a dab of foundation, which ended up looking like a ghostly mask, and a swipe of lipstick that veered wildly off course, giving him the appearance of a startled clown. With a deep, fortifying breath that felt entirely wrong in Chloe's chest, Ethan forced himself to hit go live. The screen instantly flooded with heart emojis and enthusiastic comments. "Hey, Chloe. Looking gorgeous as always. Ready for the morning glow-up. Ethan stared blankly into the camera, a deer caught in headlights. He tried to mimic Chloe's usual effervescence, but it came out as a stiff, awkward grimace. Hello, everyone, he began, his voice surprisingly high-pitched and strained. Today, we will be discussing the epidermal benefits of this particular molecular compound in your skincare routine. He gestured vaguely to a bottle of serum, holding it up like a scientific specimen. The comments section, usually a hive of positivity, began to shift. Is Chloe okay? She seems different. Did she get a new personality overnight? Ethan, in his attempt to be thorough and logical, launched into a dry, highly technical explanation of the product's chemical composition, citing clinical trials and efficacy rates. He even tried to incorporate a fun fact about lipid barriers, which only served to further confuse and alarm her audience. He forgot to smile, forgot to make eye contact, and his hands, usually so precise, moved with an uncharacteristic clumsiness. A fan commented, "Is this Chloe or a robot reading a script?" Another asked, "Did someone hack Chloe's account?" This isn't her usual vibe. The live stream descended into a spiral of bewildered comments and rapidly dropping viewer counts. Ethan, utterly mortified, finally ended the stream, collapsing onto Chloe's beanbag, thoroughly defeated. Ethan Miller, the paragon of professional competence, had just epic failed at being a bubbly influencer. It was a disaster of monumental proportions, leaving him with a newfound, terrifying respect for his sister's seemingly effortless charm. Across town, Chloe, trapped in Ethan's impeccably tailored suit and even more impeccably structured life, was enduring her own special brand of corporate hell. The sheer weight of Ethan's responsibilities pressed down on her. She had navigated the bewildering maze of Nexus Tech's campus, her every step feeling heavy and foreign. The office itself was a sea of cubicles, hushed whispers, and the rhythmic clicking of keyboards, a stark contrast to the vibrant, often noisy world of a vlogger. She tried to make small talk with Ethan's colleagues, but her usual playful banter fell flat, earning her confused glances. "Hey, bro," she'd greet a bewildered senior developer. "What's the vibe today? Any hot takes on the latest bug fix?" The developer just blinked at her. The true nightmare began during an important project presentation. Ethan had been meticulously preparing for weeks, and Chloe was expected to lead the demonstration of a new security feature. She stood in the gleaming conference room, surrounded by stern-faced executives and Ethan's equally serious team members. A complex PowerPoint presentation, filled with flowcharts and technical jargon, loomed behind her. Chloe, who thrived on improvisation, had barely glanced at the notes. She tried to channel Ethan, adopting a serious expression, but her natural instincts rebelled. Instead of calmly explaining the feature, she began her presentation with an impromptu icebreaker, complete with exaggerated hand gestures. "All right, Team Nexus Tech. Let's get this party started. Who's ready to revolutionize data security?" Silence. Crickets. The CEO raised an eyebrow. Chloe, undeterred, decided to make it more relatable. She gestured wildly at a complex diagram. "So, imagine your data is like your favorite pair of sneakers. And this new feature? It's like the ultimate, unhackable shoelace knot. No one's getting in there without your permission, bro." The bro echoed through the stunned silence. Then, unable to resist her vlogging instincts, Chloe discreetly pulled out Ethan's phone and began filming herself. "All right, guys, secret behind the scenes at Nexus Tech. Look at these intense faces. We're talking serious tech here, people," she whispered into the camera, accidentally catching the CEO's incredulous stare. The room erupted in a flurry of hushed whispers. Ethan's boss, Mr. Harrison, a man known for his unflappable demeanor, slowly began to turn a shade of purple. He cleared his throat loudly. "Mr. Miller," he said, his voice dangerously calm, "is there something you'd like to share with the group? Perhaps a new presentation style." Chloe, finally sensing the gravity of her blunder, flushed crimson. She stammered through the rest of the presentation, butchering technical terms and accidentally skipping vital slides. The security feature, which Ethan had painstakingly developed, was presented as a haphazard mess. By the end, the executives looked bewildered, her team looked horrified, and Mr. Harrison looked like he was contemplating early retirement. Chloe slunk out of the conference room, utterly humiliated. She had single-handedly torpedoed Ethan's crucial project, earning him the kind of corporate reputation that took years to recover from. She, Chloe Miller, the queen of online engagement, had just epic failed at being a corporate tech genius. The experience left her with a newfound, terrifying respect for her brother's seemingly mundane, yet incredibly demanding, profession. Both siblings, in their separate spheres of chaos, quickly came to a stark realization: living each other's lives was infinitely harder, more complex, and more terrifying than they had ever imagined. Ethan, grappling with the superficial demands of public perception, understood the subtle art of emotional connection Chloe had mastered. Chloe, floundering in the rigid structure of corporate responsibility, began to grasp the immense pressure and intellectual rigor Ethan navigated daily. The switch wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a brutal, hilarious, and deeply humbling lesson in empathy, forcing them to confront their own preconceptions and the very real challenges of the other's existence. The true nightmare, they realized, was just beginning, and they were utterly unprepared for the depths of the other's world. The aftermath of their disastrous first day living as each other left both Ethan and Chloe in a state of bewildered exhaustion, a potent cocktail of panic, frustration, and a dawning, terrifying understanding of the other's world. But the true horror was yet to unfold, as the intricate webs of their personal lives began to unravel, revealing secrets they had painstakingly kept hidden. Ethan, now confined within Chloe's vibrant, chaotic apartment and even more chaotic online persona, was still reeling from his botched livestream. He spent the rest of the day in a frantic attempt to salvage Chloe's digital reputation, responding to concerned DMs and posting vague apologies. It was during this digital deep dive that he stumbled upon a meticulously organized folder on Chloe's laptop, labeled enigmatically, Project Phoenix. Curiosity, a trait usually suppressed by his logical mind, compelled him to open it. Inside, he found a massive contract from Starlight Cosmetics, one of the biggest beauty conglomerates in the world. It was a multi-million-dollar endorsement deal, far surpassing any of Chloe's previous partnerships. The terms were incredibly lucrative, promising Chloe unprecedented global exposure and financial security. Any sane person, Ethan thought, would have jumped at this. Yet, the contract was unsigned, buried deep within a folder of pending items, with a hastily scrawled note from Chloe: too many creative restrictions. Don't want to become a puppet. Freedom. ... Ethan stared at the document, his logical engineer's brain struggling to compute. Millions of dollars. Financial stability. A clear path to mainstream success. And Chloe had just shelved it? He felt a surge of indignation, then a pang of bewildered respect. He, Ethan Miller, who meticulously planned his retirement funds and diversified his investments, saw financial stability as the ultimate goal. For Chloe, it was secondary to something as nebulous as creative freedom. He realized, with a jolt, that his sister had been secretly turning down enormous opportunities, not out of recklessness, but out of a fierce, almost spiritual, dedication to her authentic self and her connection with her audience. It was a revelation that shook his core belief system. He had always seen her as impulsive and irresponsible. Now he saw a woman of unwavering principle, albeit one that baffled his practical mind. The secret of the Starlight Cosmetics deal was a heavy burden, one he knew he had to keep under wraps, not only to protect Chloe's image, but also to grapple with his own conflicting feelings about it. He, the man who always chased efficiency, was now complicit in his sister's financially illogical, yet deeply principled, secret. Meanwhile, Chloe, wrestling with the existential dread of Ethan's meticulous office and the lingering horror of her corporate presentation, felt utterly out of her depth. The technical jargon in Ethan's work emails was like a foreign language, and the sheer volume of tasks made her head spin. In a desperate attempt to find something familiar, something that hinted at the human beneath the robot, she began to explore Ethan's personal computer. She started in his documents folder, hoping for a diary or a secret project, but found only spreadsheets, project outlines, and highly optimized expense reports. It was precisely what she expected and dreaded. Then, she noticed a hidden folder, cunningly disguised as system logs. Do not open. A tiny spark of her vlogger's curiosity ignited. She thought, even Robot Tan has secrets. With a mischievous grin, she clicked it open. What she found made her jaw drop, her eyes widen, and a strangled gasp escape Ethan's throat. The folder wasn't filled with system logs. It was a treasure trove of hundreds, no, thousands of photos. Photos of Ethan. Ethan in elaborate, stunningly detailed cosplay outfits. Ethan as a valiant knight, wielding a meticulously crafted sword. Ethan as a suave vampire lord, complete with fangs and flowing cape. And then, Chloe scrolled further, and her brain short-circuited. There were dozens of photos of Ethan dressed as various female anime characters, elegant magical girls, fierce warrior princesses, even a surprisingly convincing maid outfit. He had wigs, makeup, even carefully padded costumes to achieve the desired silhouette. He was posing, sometimes dramatically, sometimes with a shy, almost bashful smile, holding props and enacting scenes from his favorite anime series. Chloe stared at the screen, a mixture of shock, awe, and uncontrollable laughter bubbling within her. Ethan, her serious, logical, robot-like brother, the man who lectured her about responsibility and practicality, was secretly a closet cosplayer, and a damn good one at that. And not just any cosplayer, but one who embraced the gender-bending freedom of the art form with impressive dedication. The image of Robot Tan meticulously applying lipstick and adjusting a voluminous blonde wig was so utterly incongruous with his public persona that it bordered on the surreal. This was his deepest, most unexpected secret, a vibrant, creative, and utterly adorable aspect of his personality he kept meticulously hidden. A sudden wave of protectiveness washed over Chloe, overriding her initial amusement. She knew the internet, and she knew how cruel it could be. If these photos ever got out, especially the female cosplay ones, Ethan's entire career and reputation would be irrevocably destroyed. He'd be ridiculed, become a meme, a cautionary tale. This was his vulnerable, beautiful, utterly human side, exposed only to the digital lens of his own camera. She felt a profound understanding, a glimpse into the depths of his private world. Her brother, the unfeeling robot, had a rich, fantastical inner life, a secret garden of imagination he fiercely guarded. The weight of his shameful secret pressed down on her, creating an almost physical ache. She had to protect it, to hide it at all costs, even as she struggled to suppress a giggle at the image of Ethan in a frilly pink dress. Both siblings were now faced with the daunting task of not only navigating their swapped lives, but also desperately trying to keep each other's most embarrassing, and in Ethan's case, financially illogical, secrets under wraps. Ethan, the pragmatist, was now trying to justify Chloe's artistic integrity over millions. Chloe, the free spirit, was meticulously deleting browsing history and locking folders, desperately trying to protect Ethan's hidden, deeply personal joy. The irony was not lost on them. They were each forced to become the reluctant guardians of the other's most vulnerable truths, stumbling through a minefield of potential exposure, all while trying to impersonate someone they barely understood. The initial chaos was giving way to a deeper, more complicated game of charades, where the stakes were higher than just personal embarrassment. They were about reputation, identity, and the fragile trust between siblings. Their two worlds, once separate, were now intertwined by the threads of these newly discovered, deeply personal revelations. The initial shock and subsequent comedic blunders slowly began to give way to an unexpected, almost miraculous, adaptation. Ethan, the methodical engineer, found himself grudgingly embracing the fluidity of Chloe's online world. And Chloe, the vivacious vlogger, started to discover an unexpected aptitude for the structured logic of Ethan's corporate life. They were, against all odds, beginning to thrive in each other's shoes, proving that necessity truly is the mother of invention, or, in their case, a hilarious redefinition of identity. Ethan, still trapped in Chloe's effervescent body, started his journey of transformation from panicked techie to accidental internet sensation. After the initial livestream debacle, he knew he couldn't maintain Chloe's usual energetic persona. It felt inauthentic and, frankly, exhausting. So, he pivoted. Drawing on his own strengths, logic, analysis, and a penchant for deep dives, he decided to redefine Chloe Unfiltered. His next livestream, scheduled for a review of a new virtual reality game, was approached with a different strategy. Instead of frantic enthusiasm, Ethan adopted a calm, analytical tone. He meticulously dissected the game's mechanics, critiqued its coding architecture, and even offered philosophical interpretations of its narrative themes. He spoke in well-structured paragraphs, using precise language, occasionally even citing real-world physics principles to explain game glitches. He looked directly into the camera, not with a forced smile, but with a gaze of intense, intellectual curiosity. The comments section, which had previously been filled with concern, now erupted with a new kind of fervor. OMG, Chloe is so smart today. She's like a cool philosophy professor. Who knew gaming reviews could be so thought-provoking? Ethan, unintentionally, had stumbled upon a niche: serious vlogging. He started to call his segments Deep Dives with Chloe, where he would analyze everything from the socio-economic implications of fast fashion, using infographics he quickly learned to create, to the psychological underpinnings of internet trends. He even began to incorporate a dry, understated wit, drawing on his natural sarcasm which, in Chloe's body, suddenly became endearing and intellectual. His fan base, initially perplexed, was now utterly captivated. They started coining terms like Philosopher Chloe or Chloe the Analyst. His viewership soared, propelled by a genuine curiosity for this new, unexpected persona. Brands, initially wary, were now intrigued by the sophisticated, articulate, and surprisingly influential voice he had cultivated. Ethan, to his own astonishment, was creating trends, not through typical influencer antics, but by making intellectual discourse cool again. He was inadvertently becoming an idol, not for his looks or charm, but for his brain. He found himself genuinely engaging with the comments, answering complex questions, and even enjoying the process of crafting compelling, informative content. The pressure of performance was still there, but it was now a challenge he could meet with his own unique skill set, blurring the lines between entertainer and educator. He started to see the immense power of Chloe's platform and the responsibility that came with it, not as a burden, but as an opportunity. Meanwhile, Chloe, now navigating the labyrinthine corridors of Nexus Tech in Ethan's body, had also found her unexpected stride. After the disastrous presentation, she knew she couldn't pretend to be the coding wizard Ethan was. But she also knew she couldn't just throw in the towel. She started attending every meeting, absorbing the technical jargon like a sponge. What she lacked in coding prowess, she made up for in her natural ability to connect, communicate, and think outside the box. Her turning point came during a brainstorming session for a new user interface. Ethan's team was stuck, bogged down in technical specifications and logical flowcharts. Chloe, seeing a room full of brilliant minds struggling to communicate with each other, took charge. "Okay, guys," she announced, her voice surprisingly authoritative in Ethan's deeper register. "Let's ditch the jargon for a sec. Imagine this UI is a first date. What's the vibe? Is it awkward? Is it fun? Is it making you want to ghost immediately?" She used analogies, memes, and even role-playing exercises to get the team thinking differently. She encouraged them to consider the emotional experience of the user, not just the logical pathway. She challenged their assumptions, asking questions like, "What would make this feature go viral?" or "How can we make this Insta-worthy for our users?" Her unconventional approach, initially met with bewildered silence, began to spark genuine creativity. Developers, freed from the rigid confines of technical speak, started offering innovative solutions. She encouraged vlog-style, internal demos, where team members would explain complex features as if they were talking to an audience, fostering clearer communication. Chloe's infectious energy and innate understanding of human psychology began to work wonders. She streamlined communication within the team, organized their project management with colorful and surprisingly effective visual boards, and even convinced the marketing department to collaborate more closely with the developers. Mr. Harrison, initially skeptical, was now genuinely surprised. Ethan's team, once known for its quiet efficiency, was now a vibrant hub of collaboration and innovation. Project deadlines were being met with renewed vigor, and the quality of their user-centric designs dramatically improved. Chloe, the emotionally stunted programmer brother, was becoming the charismatic leader, fostering a sense of camaraderie and purpose that had been missing. She started to see the immense potential within the tech world, not as a sterile, logical vacuum, but as a fertile ground for creativity and impact. Slowly but surely, a profound understanding began to blossom between the siblings, though they were physically apart. Ethan, witnessing the genuine engagement of Chloe's audience, began to appreciate the subtle art of emotional connection and the power of authentic self-expression. He realized that Chloe's chaotic life was not devoid of meaning or purpose. It was simply a different way of creating impact. He felt the genuine satisfaction of informing and inspiring people, a feeling far removed from the cold satisfaction of debugging code. Chloe, on the other hand, began to grasp the intricate planning, the intellectual rigor, and the immense pressure Ethan faced daily. She understood the satisfaction of building something concrete, of seeing a complex problem yield to a logical solution. She recognized the dedication and brilliance required to navigate the corporate world and contribute meaningfully to a larger organization. The abstract work Ethan did was no longer just a source of frustration. It was a challenging, rewarding endeavor. They were still in each other's bodies, still navigating the awkwardness and the fear of exposure, but something fundamental had shifted. They were no longer just impersonating. They were learning. They were not just surviving. They were, in their own unique ways, thriving. And in doing so, they were unwittingly forging a bridge of empathy, realizing that perhaps their two worlds, once thought to be irreconcilable, held more common ground, more shared purpose than they had ever dared to imagine. The switch, initially a curse, was slowly transforming into a profound, albeit hilarious, lesson in mutual respect and understanding. The fragile balance they had managed to maintain, the precarious illusion of normalcy they had so carefully constructed, was about to shatter. The universe, it seemed, had a perverse sense of humor, delighting in pushing them to the very brink of exposure. Both Ethan and Chloe had, against all odds, carved out new personas in each other's lives, but the deeper they delved, the more treacherous the ground became. The line between their real selves and their adopted identities blurred, leading to a series of near-catastrophic blunders. Ethan, as philosopher Chloe, had garnered a significant following. His deep dives were generating buzz, and his serious, intellectual approach to vlogging had even landed Chloe a coveted spot on a popular morning talk show, a truly terrifying prospect for Ethan. He had even started to find a strange comfort in Chloe's apartment, learning to navigate the chaos with a newfound, almost zen-like acceptance. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of brand meetings and content planning, Ethan decided to unwind. He missed his private sanctuary, his cosplay room, the one place he could truly be himself. A wave of longing for his own life, his own body, washed over him. In a moment of unguarded nostalgia, fueled by a particularly challenging negotiation with a coffee brand's marketing team, Ethan did something utterly out of character for Chloe's persona. He opened Chloe's personal social media account, the one not connected to Chloe Unfiltered, which she rarely used, and absent-mindedly scrolled through his own phone, the one he was carrying in Chloe's purse. He found an old picture he had taken, a candid selfie in his Gojo Satoru cosplay, mid-pose, a rare moment of genuine, uninhibited joy. It was a picture he had deemed too personal, too revealing, even for his own private collection. For some inexplicable reason, perhaps a subconscious longing for his true self, He momentarily forgot whose phone he was holding and whose account he was logged into. With a single, fatal tap, he uploaded the image to Chloe's personal Instagram story, adding a cryptic caption, "Embracing my inner warrior tonight." The internet, a beast of insatiable curiosity, instantly pounced. Chloe's personal account wasn't as public as her vlogging channel, but her most loyal fans, those who followed her every digital footprint, saw it. The image, a high-quality, surprisingly flattering shot of a handsome man, Ethan, in an iconic anime cosplay, quickly went viral within her dedicated fan base. OMG! Is Chloe secretly dating a cosplayer? Who is this hottie? Chloe's boyfriend is Gojo Satoru? But then, a more discerning fan noticed something unsettling. The face in the picture, while undeniably attractive, was not the face of a typical boyfriend. It looked eerily familiar. "Wait a minute," one fan commented, "doesn't that look like Chloe's brother?" Another, a true detective of the digital age, zoomed in on the background. "Is that Chloe's apartment? What is her brother doing in a Gojo Satoru costume in Chloe's apartment?" The floodgates opened. Soon, the entire internet was abuzz with speculation. Hashtags like #ChloeBrotherCosplay and #GojoGate started trending. Screenshots of the image were everywhere. The overwhelming consensus from the masses: Chloe has a secret hot brother who cosplays. And he's cute AF. The situation escalated from innocent speculation to a full-blown internet mystery. Ethan, who had uploaded the photo in a moment of absent-mindedness, woke up to a barrage of texts and DMs, all demanding answers about Chloe's mysterious Gojo brother. The jig, it seemed, was almost up. His carefully guarded secret, Chloe's public persona, and their entire Switch operation were on the verge of spectacular public collapse. Concurrently, Chloe, still inhabiting Ethan's body, was sailing through her professional responsibilities with a newfound confidence. Her innovative approach to team leadership had earned her, or Ethan, the respect of his colleagues and even cautious praise from Mr. Harrison. She had even managed to charm a few key clients with her relatable analogies and infectious enthusiasm. However, her vlogging instincts, deeply ingrained in her psyche, proved to be her Achilles heel. During a particularly intense, high-stakes board meeting, where the fate of Nexus Tech's next big project was being decided, Chloe felt the familiar itch. The meeting was dry, filled with jargon, and the tension in the room was palpable. Her mind, used to capturing every spontaneous moment, craved an outlet. Discreetly, almost subconsciously, she pulled out Ethan's phone and, thinking she was merely recording a personal, mental note for herself, began to narrate the meeting for an imaginary audience. "All right, guys," she whispered, her voice low and muffled, "we're in the trenches now. This is the real corporate battlefield. Look at these power players. So much intensity, so little caffeine." She panned the camera around, accidentally catching the CEO in mid-skull and Mr. Harrison mid-frown. She continued her commentary, providing dramatic interpretations of each executive's body language and offering humorous, to her, theories about their inner thoughts. "See Mr. Jenkins there? He's definitely thinking about his golf game, not this quarterly report." "Classic," she muttered, stifling a giggle. What Chloe didn't realize was that Ethan's phone had a voice-activated recording feature that he occasionally used for note-taking during long meetings. More critically, he had recently installed a new cloud syncing feature that automatically uploaded any audio or video recordings to his private, company-linked server for project archival. The entire, hilarious, and utterly inappropriate vlog of the board meeting was now silently, meticulously archiving itself onto Nexus Tech's secure network. Later that day, Mr. Harrison was reviewing some project files on Ethan's shared server when he stumbled upon a new, unlabeled audio file. Curiosity piqued, he clicked play. What he heard made his jaw clench. It was Ethan's voice unmistakably, but the words were Chloe's, playful, irreverent, and utterly unprofessional. He listened in growing horror as Ethan provided a running, sarcastic commentary on the most important board meeting of the quarter, even capturing his own, Mr. Harrison's, mid-frown moment. "Mr. Miller, He muttered to himself, his face turning crimson, has completely lost his mind. The incident sent shockwaves through Nexus Tech's upper management. Ethan Miller, once the embodiment of professionalism, was now being openly discussed as having a psychological breakdown. Whispers of stress leave and erratic behavior followed Chloe wherever she went. His, or rather, her, colleagues started treating her with a mix of pity and discomfort. Mr. Harrison called her into his office, his face a mask of strained concern. "Ethan," he began, his voice carefully modulated, "we've noticed a change in your demeanor. And some unusual activity. Are you feeling all right? Is everything stable at home?" Both siblings were now teetering on the precipice of full exposure. Ethan's cosplay secret was out, potentially compromising Chloe's brand and attracting unwanted attention to their family. Chloe's vlogging antics had convinced Ethan's entire company that he was unraveling, threatening his career and reputation. The pressure was immense, the stakes higher than ever. They realized with a shared, terrifying clarity that they couldn't sustain this charade much longer. The universe wasn't just being funny anymore, it was actively pushing them towards a reckoning. They had to find a way back, and fast, before their swapped lives irrevocably destroyed everything they held dear. The clock was ticking, and the secrets were demanding to be fully revealed. The revelation of their near exposure, both online and in the corporate world, struck Ethan and Chloe with the force of a double-barreled shotgun. The fun and games were officially over. Ethan, reading the panicked DMs about Chloe's hot brother and seeing the trending hashtags, felt a cold dread. His carefully guarded secret, now public, felt like a violation. Chloe, reeling from Mr. Harrison's concerned and vaguely threatening inquiry, understood that Ethan's entire career was hanging by a thread. They converged back at Ethan's, now Chloe's, apartment, their faces pale, the forced cheerfulness of their swapped lives completely gone. "Ethan, this is a disaster." Chloe, in Ethan's body, exclaimed, pacing frantically. "Harrison thinks I'm having a mental breakdown. My team is looking at me like I'm a ticking time bomb." Ethan, in Chloe's body, ran a hand through his sister's now tangled hair. "And my Gojo photo is everywhere. They think Chloe's got some secret cosplaying boyfriend, or worse, that her family is just weird. Our lives are imploding." For a moment, they just stared at each other, the weight of their predicament settling heavily between them. Then, Ethan's gaze fell upon the curio cabinet, the source of all their troubles. He remembered the night of the storm, the old wooden box, and the strange, glowing antique pocket watch. "The watch," Ethan murmured, his voice barely a whisper. "It all started with the watch." Chloe, her eyes wide with sudden realization, nodded. "Yeah, when we both touched it, that's when it happened." They approached the curio cabinet, a sense of grim determination replacing their panic. The wooden box lay nestled innocently on the shelf. Ethan gently picked it up, feeling its aged weight. Inside, the antique pocket watch rested, its silver casing glinting dully. But this time, something else was there. Tucked beneath the velvet lining, something they hadn't noticed in their previous hurried searches, was a small, aged, handwritten note. The paper was brittle, the ink faded, but the familiar script was unmistakable. It was their father's handwriting. Their hearts ached with a mixture of sadness and a renewed sense of urgency. Their father had passed away 5 years ago, leaving behind a void that neither of them had fully acknowledged or addressed. He had been a kind, gentle soul, a watchmaker by trade and a philosopher by nature, always trying to bridge the gap between his two often bickering children. Ethan carefully unfolded the note, his hands trembling slightly. Chloe leaned over his shoulder, her breath held captive. The words, written in their father's elegant, slightly slanted hand, seemed to speak directly to them from beyond the grave. "My dearest Ethan and Chloe, if you are reading this, it means you have found the family heirloom, the chrono dial. And more importantly, it means you have activated it. I always knew it might happen one day, given your spirited debates. This watch is more than just a timepiece. It is a catalyst. For years, I watched you two, my brilliant, beautiful children, grow further apart in your understanding of the world. Ethan, my logical, disciplined son, struggling to grasp the beautiful chaos of emotion. Chloe, my vibrant, free-spirited daughter, resisting the grounding power of structure. I made this watch, not for mischief, but for empathy. If you two ever truly lose sight of each other, if you fail to learn the invaluable lesson of walking in another's shoes, the Chronos dial will ensure you do just that. It will swap your bodies, forcing you to live the life of the other, to feel their burdens, to understand their joys, to walk their path. The only way to reverse the switch, my dears, is not through magic spells or incantations. It is through genuine understanding. It is when you truly, deeply learn to appreciate and respect the other's perspective. When you can see the value in both logic and emotion, in discipline and freedom, in the worlds you each inhabit. Find a way to bridge your differences. Show each other and the world that two seemingly opposite forces can not only coexist, but can also create something beautiful and powerful together. Only then will the Chronos dial believe its purpose has been served, and only then will it return you to your rightful selves. Remember, my children, the greatest strength lies not in being right, but in understanding. I love you both more than words can say. Now, go and learn. With all my love, Dad. A profound silence descended upon the apartment, broken only by the distant wail of a siren. Tears welled in Chloe's eyes and Ethan's body, a genuine, heartfelt emotion that hadn't been able to surface in her own persona. Ethan, in Chloe's body, felt a knot tighten in his throat, a sudden, aching understanding. Their father, in his quiet wisdom, had foreseen their eternal struggle and provided them with the most unconventional, yet profoundly effective, solution. The switch wasn't a random accident, it was a father's last, loving lesson. He wanted us to understand each other, Chloe whispered, her voice thick with emotion. He knew we were too stubborn to do it any other way. Ethan nodded, a single tear tracing a path down Chloe's cheek. Logic and emotion. Structure and freedom, he recited, the words resonating with a new, deeper meaning. We have to show we understand. We have to bridge the gap. Suddenly, an idea, born from the unique blend of their swapped experiences, sparked in Ethan's mind. Chloe, he said, his voice firm, we need to make a video. A collaboration. Not as Ethan and Chloe, but as us in each other's bodies, talking about what we've learned. Chloe's eyes widened. A collaboration? But how? We can't tell them we've swapped. We don't have to, Ethan clarified. We talk about the essence. About the value of different perspectives. About how logic and emotion, seemingly opposite, are both essential. We tell them a story without explicitly telling our story. We use Chloe's platform, but with my analytical depth. And your raw emotion. Over the next few days, driven by a newfound synergy and the urgent need to reverse the swap, they poured their combined skills into a single, extraordinary video. Ethan, in Chloe's body, planned the structure, wrote a meticulously balanced script that wove together philosophical concepts with relatable anecdotes, and even designed elegant graphics. Chloe, in Ethan's body, brought the raw emotion, the captivating delivery, and the natural charisma that made the content resonate deeply. They filmed it in Chloe's apartment, positioning the camera to subtly capture both their new personas. Ethan, as Chloe, spoke articulately about the beauty of structure and planning, the unsung heroes of efficiency, and the satisfaction of building something tangible. He shared insights gleaned from his time at Nexus Tech, framing them in an accessible, engaging way. Chloe, as Ethan, spoke passionately about the power of intuition, the courage of vulnerability, and the profound connection found in unfiltered self-expression. She recounted anecdotes from her vlogging life, explaining the pressure and the joy of genuine interaction. The video was titled, "The Interplay of Logic and Emotion: Why Both Worlds Matter." It wasn't just a discussion, it was a heartfelt dialogue between two perspectives, each advocating for the other's value. They shared personal, but carefully veiled, anecdotes about how understanding a different worldview had enriched their own. Ethan, in a rare moment of vulnerability, spoke about finding unexpected joy and spontaneity. Chloe, with an equally rare admission, confessed to appreciating the calm clarity that comes with careful planning. When they finally uploaded it, they held their breath. The video was unlike anything Chloe Unfiltered had ever produced. It was deep, thought-provoking, yet infused with an undeniable warmth and authenticity. Within hours, it exploded. The comments section was flooded not with questions about a hot cosplaying brother or Chloe's strange new vibe, but with messages of profound agreement and introspection. This is exactly what I needed to hear. Chloe just dropped some serious wisdom. It's like she's speaking for both sides of my brain. The video resonated with millions, becoming a viral sensation, a poignant testament to the power of understanding. It wasn't just a hit, it was a bridge, built from their swapped experiences, connecting the seemingly disparate worlds of logic and emotion, discipline and freedom. The Chronos dial, their father's loving legacy, had finally found its purpose. The night after the interplay of logic and emotion video went live, a strange tranquility settled over Ethan and Chloe. They had watched the view count skyrocket, the comments pour in, a tidal wave of positive feedback and profound appreciation for their message. There was a sense of quiet accomplishment, a shared understanding that they had not only navigated their impossible situation, but had also created something truly meaningful from it. Exhausted, yet emotionally fulfilled, they retreated to their respective beds, each falling into a deep, dreamless sleep. The morning light, soft and gentle, found Ethan waking with a start. He stretched, feeling a familiar stiffness in his shoulders, a pleasant ache from his usual morning workout routine. He opened his eyes, expecting the vibrant chaos of Chloe's room, but instead, he was greeted by the familiar, comforting minimalism of his own bedroom. The pristine white walls, the neatly organized book collection, the scent of lemon disinfectant, it was all unequivocally his. He looked down at his hands. They were strong, masculine, with short, unpolished nails. His own hands. He scrambled out of bed, rushed to the mirror, and stared. It was Ethan. His own face, his own slightly furrowed brow, his own serious gaze looking back at him. A wave of indescribable relief, mingled with a touch of nostalgia, washed over him. He was back. He was himself. Almost simultaneously, across the hall, Chloe woke up to the feeling of soft, disheveled hair tickling her face. She blinked, her eyes adjusting to the colorful explosion of her own room, the bohemian tapestries, the overflowing clothes rack, the haphazard pile of beauty products. She looked down at her hands, slender, with perfectly manicured, glittery lavender nails. Her hands. She bolted upright, let out a joyful shriek that was distinctly her high-pitched voice, and sprinted to her mirror. It was Chloe. Her own vibrant, expressive face, her messy bun, her unmistakable presence. She laughed, a genuine, unburdened laugh that resonated with pure elation. She was back. She was herself. They met in the hallway, both still slightly disoriented but undeniably ecstatic. A shared glance, a silent nod of profound understanding, passed between them. The switch was reversed. The Chronos dial had deemed its mission accomplished. But they weren't the same. The experience had fundamentally reshaped them, subtly altering their perspectives and priorities. Ethan, the once unflappable robot, had learned the invaluable lesson of vulnerability and the intoxicating joy of genuine connection. He found himself more comfortable in his own skin, less afraid of stepping outside the rigid boundaries he had created for himself. He continued his work at Nexus Tech, but with a renewed sense of purpose, often incorporating Chloe's user-centric, empathetic approach into his projects. He even started leading workshops on emotional intelligence in product design, much to Mr. Harrison's bewildered delight. And his secret? It was no longer a secret. One day, he casually posted a picture of himself in his full Gojo Satoru cosplay on his own personal and previously dormant Instagram account with the caption, "Turns out, even engineers need a little magic." #cosplaylife, #unleash your inner geek. The internet, already charmed by Chloe's brother, responded with an outpouring of support and admiration. He even started attending local comic conventions, not hiding his identity, but embracing it with a quiet, confident joy. He finally understood that authenticity, in all its forms, was a strength, not a weakness. Chloe, the spontaneous vlogger, had developed a newfound appreciation for structure, planning, and the quiet satisfaction of meticulous work. She still loved her chaotic life, but now her vlogs were interspersed with more thoughtful, well-researched content. She started planning her brand collaborations with greater care, reading contracts thoroughly, much to the delight of her agent, and even creating detailed content calendars. She respected deadlines, understood the value of foresight, and approached her work with a deeper sense of responsibility. She often found herself thinking, what would Ethan do, before making impulsive decisions? Her channel, Chloe Unfiltered, became even more nuanced, blending her signature spontaneity with moments of profound reflection, creating content that was both entertaining and genuinely insightful. She learned that freedom, true freedom, often came with a foundation of discipline. Their sibling dynamic, once a constant push and pull, had transformed into a harmonious interplay. They still bickered, of course. Old habits die hard, but now their arguments were laced with an underlying current of respect and genuine understanding. They understood the pressures, the joys, and the complexities of each other's worlds. The gap that had separated them for so long was finally bridged. The story culminates a few months later. Ethan and Chloe are back in Chloe's apartment, surrounded by soft lighting and their usual array of vlogging equipment. They're both dressed comfortably, radiating a newfound ease. They sit side by side, a subtle shift in their energy palpable. Hey, guys, and welcome back to Chloe Unfiltered. Chloe begins, her eyes sparkling, a genuine smile on her face. Ethan, sitting next to her, offers a calm, confident smile. And a very special welcome, as we have a very special guest today. Indeed, Chloe interjects, nudging him playfully. Many of you have been asking about the famous Gojo Satoru from My Brothers debut on social media. She winks at the camera, and Ethan playfully rolls his eyes. And many of you have been wondering, Ethan continues, about the sudden, philosophical turn of events on Chloe's channel. They both lean into the camera, a shared glint of mischief in their eyes. Well, Chloe says, today, we're finally ready to tell you. Ethan finishes, his voice resonating with a gentle warmth, the story of the day I became my sibling. They launch into a joint vlog, a narrative woven with humor, candid confessions, and profound reflections. They don't explicitly state the body swap, but they tell a highly allegorical story about walking in each other's shoes, using vivid metaphors and recounting their experiences with enough detail for their astute audience to connect the dots. Chloe describes the terror of debugging code, while Ethan vividly recounts the existential dread of a botched beauty tutorial. They laugh at their past selves, share the lessons they learned, and express a deep, heartfelt appreciation for each other. The video is a masterpiece of storytelling, funny, touching, and incredibly honest. It goes viral, becoming a global sensation, not just for its entertainment value, but for its powerful message of empathy and understanding. It ends with a shot of Ethan and Chloe, arm in arm, laughing genuinely, a testament to the enduring, beautiful bond between siblings who, through a truly bizarre twist of fate, finally learned to truly see each other. The Chronos dial had done its job, transforming two worlds of opposition into a unified, stronger, and infinitely more loving universe.